Wrap In Monday. Wrap In Monday because we're not wrapping up. There's a lot of action that goes on in this 24-hour news cycle in and through the weekend. And then by the time we get to Monday, who knows what's going on. So, I don't think I've ever remembered, I will remember, Fridays being so heavy and busy with, items coming out. And then, it's clearly something going on into the weekend. And again, we have a 24-hour news cycle, so you know what that means. It means that there's always something going on. There's always going to be news that happens. So we will make that Monday a wrap up, a wrap in to the week, because what we want to do is prepare you guys for the news that you are going to talk about or that you're going to hear about, quite literally, for the rest of the week. So come in Monday, we're going to tackle, nuts and bolts, 2 or 3 items, if not maybe more if we can, whatever's pertinent that I feel that you need to get a good, strong filter of good information before you get the hyperbole and you get the propaganda and you get all the left and right skewing so that you go in one direction or another. I'm going to try to give you meat and potatoes in the middle. We do have some opinions here, but we will definitely make sure that they're clear to you as we make them. We're not trying to pontificate. We're not straight journalists in the traditional sense that we've talked about before. I don't ever aspire to be, and I don't think I could be, the Edward R. Murrow, Tom Brokaw. I can go on and on. Those good old dudes that were straight newsmen, old school straight newsmen. So that's what you're getting. And we're going to talk about 3 items tonight that come off the weekend and wrap up, but wrap into the week to give you a bit of information to prepare you for the week, because these are items that will be talked about all the week entirely, all the way into the coming week. And so, as usual, we have a panel tonight, and we have our 2 guests that are our ongoing co-hosts, Brother Miller, Brother Crow, and we're going to make that something that's consistent. We're trying to give you 3 different viewpoints, if not always different. Sometimes different. Maybe we agree on some things. Maybe I agree with Jeff on some. Maybe I'd agree with Brother Miller on some. But when it's all over, we always end up coming back to, and I don't want to say the middle, but we always come back to commonality. You got to come back to common ground, even if you're in disagreement. That's critical here. And I've been asked, more and more recently over the last few weeks, some people are beginning to understand, and some are asking, long-term intent of the program. They get it in the short term, right? We're talking about meaty issues, and we're dealing with them in a good fashion. We're dealing with them without the negative, without the hyperbole, without what I believe is the vitriol that is pretty much endemic in our national discourse. We're trying to remove that. We're talking to each other, even when we don't agree, with respect, with some courtesy, some professional courtesy at the very least, and some discipline in how we handle ourselves as adults. Because let's face it, there are a lot of people right now that are adults that don't act like adults, and they end up having to be the people that we have to listen to. So we're trying to change that, and we are, and quite literally we are. But long-term objective is you're looking at something that I want to go beyond strictly the political. We're calling it, because it is, socio-political, socio-cultural. And in essence, it's I want it to be not just a standalone program, a 1-hour show that you see every once in a while, but an intent to build a lifestyle / culture. And when you're all over and done, you're going to look back and say, well, what do you mean by culture? Yeah, I do mean that. Culture, the American culture, as viewed through this little brown dude, this Mexican guy that grew up on the west side of Fresno, with no pop, just a mom who worked her butt off and put me through school, and I survived and joined the Army, came back, did a lot, learned a lot, and now I'm trying to make that part of the national fabric, right? From my perspective. That's the nature of the beast, right? You got to have something that makes you a little bit different, and I will quite literally say, I haven't seen anybody quite like me on air. Definitely not at the national level. Maybe some local stuff, but I'd hazard a guess and say I'd be more than equal to the task if they want to have issue and debate talking point. So without any hyperbole and further ado, we'll do some more. We want to get into first a thank you, and then into the meat of our program. So a big thank you for tonight to all of you guys that contributed and helped out with the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society drive and campaign. My daughter just wrapped that up this Saturday. Some of you guys saw I posted an image of her and the students from the greater Fresno area. They raised, and ready for this, they raised over $420,000 in 7 weeks. This is basically a group of young people representing all the schools in the area. Not every single one. I want to say maybe 10 to 15 kids, 10 to 15 high school kids, ladies and gentlemen, that raised over $420,000. It's the largest amount that program, Student of the Year program, has ever done for leukemia and lymphoma. And I have some of you guys here on the Supermax Nation that did contribute, that did help in some way or another, and I appreciate it, and I wanted to give you a big thank you. My daughter wanted to thank you, obviously. She raised a good, healthy amount herself, and she was part of a much larger cause that was, you know, enlightening to her. It forced her to have to do some things. It added to an already full plate. She was in front of businesses. She was in front of corporations. She had to go and discuss and be an expert on the issue and lobby, if not, you know, cajole and arm ring to get people to contribute to this worthy cause. So I'm really, really proud of her, and I'm really, really proud of you guys that contributed and gave attention, because it isn't just about raising money, ladies and gentlemen. It is primarily and should be about raising awareness. We need to be more aware. This doesn't happen just to somebody that you know. This is happening every day, and we need to find ways, because cancer is one of, if not the biggest killer that we deal with on a daily basis in our country. Everybody's family is affected by it at some point. So last point to that, I said, you know, thank you to my daughter Gabby and her LLS crew, Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. We complain, and I wanted to illustrate this point. I wrote this down when I was thinking about what I was talking about today, and I said, we complain, as you guys have heard, about this new generation, these new generations, right? However, we need to start paying attention, because in these generations, there are some really good things going on. If this generation isn't what we want it to be, then ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to put it right back on us, because I believe in falling on my own sword. If something's not good on my watch, then it's my fault. You heard it here. No. Am I realistically responsible for every negative thing that goes on in the universe in this age group? No, obviously. Okay, but until we start acting like adults and start educating them properly, guiding them properly, mentoring, advising, and raising them properly, then we shouldn't be complaining and crying, because there are some really good kids out there doing some really great things, not for themselves, but for other people. So, point of fact, and to illustrate that point, I want you guys to make yourselves aware of that. I'm doing that tonight. This generation, these high school kids are doing good things. We just need to find them and stop focusing on all the bad. I think you know where that goes. All right, so down to business. Again, to my hard right, Brother Miller. I like that. Look at it. Throw the hands up. To my hard left, Brother Crow. Throw the hands up. Throw the hands up. There you go. All right. Because he's extremely right and he's extremely left. I love doing that. It works for me. Maybe not your hard right, hard left, but he's my brothers in arms, my combat arms. And we're going to tackle some topics today. I've kind of gave him a general, and you know how this goes. So we don't script everything in advance. I may tell them the topic, and then it's kind of on them, and then we're going to have it out here. I want that part of this program to be unique. I don't want it to be a canned and static approach to today's issues. I want that to be free-flowing. I want open thought. I want people thinking actively as we're in the action, because you never know what's going to happen. So I may have to referee you guys, but don't get too crazy. All right, so I put up on the Supermax Nation group. If you're not already in that group and you're listening for the first time, and if you're on YouTube, because we are on a YouTube channel, you go to Supermax Nation, the Facebook page, and make yourself a member and get in, because that aspect is a forum for discussion, open. And I do actively go through that, and I pull topic out of that as people are having those conversations in the Supermax Nation group. I really like that aspect of it, because it allows me to interact and it allows me to drive the engine of this show as we go forward. So I do pay attention. It's my page. I look at it. I watch it. I don't always comment or post on everything because I want open dialogue between the members. But Supermax Nation, the Facebook page, it's easy to get to. Post it or check it out. Write in Supermax Nation, punch in Supermax Nation on Facebook, and it'll take you to it. Ask to be a member. You get into that group. That's where the discussion and the topic raising comes from for the most part. And you guys, I want you into that in addition to the YouTube subscription. Make sure you like and subscribe on the YouTube channel. So we're on YouTube tonight, and we're going to be on multiple formats going forward. All right, we're increasing, we're growing, but we're doing it slowly, methodically, and watch this. This one's for Brother Crow. Do you hear that, Mr. Anderson? That is the sound of inevitability, Mr. Anderson. You like that? It is inevitable. We are going to do inevitability here. Yeah, it is. Agent Smith, baby. That dude was ruthless. Also known as Hugo Weaving, who is also Elrond in The Lord of the Rings. I can go on. He's a great guy's a great actor. He's a really good actor. So anyway, so inevitable. All of these things are taking place in sequence because they're planned out. We're methodical and we're inevitable. They are going to get done in sequence. I build slow and methodically. Don't be worried about the numbers. The numbers are going to begin to increase because the foundation is being laid down solid right now. That's where we're going. So, YouTube channel, subscribe, like. Facebook group, Supermex Nation. Facebook business and method, Supermex International. All of that is one thing. You can go to one and you could find all the others, okay? But I need you on all of them. All right, as we go forward, be one of those founding members. That's what some of you guys are. All right, here we go. So I left 3 topics on the table. We're going to begin with this first one. And I'm going to start it with, basically I said, the border, Biden, and Barr. It just worked out that way. And I'm not talking about the Better Business Bureau. Yeah. The border,
I was thinking
Biden,
that when I first saw it.
and Barr.
Nice.
So the border, Biden, and Barr. I do get a little crafty, all right? She's crafty. She gets around.
Another awesome
Beastie
song.
Boys.
Beastie Boys.
All right, I'll be on all fire
Two
tonight.
bees there.
Be on all fire tonight. Okay, so the border. And you know, this is an ongoing thing. And I will literally say, Supermex Nation, we're all over the place on this one. I've got people that are hard right. I got people that are hard left. I got people that just kind of don't give a damn anymore, even though it's like the national topic, right? Because the president's making it the topic. So I will start, and we'll begin, you know, with you two gentlemen, you know, getting it on, with me in the middle, probably getting it on too, to try to figure out how we're going to do this. But Kirstjen Nielsen, okay, so she resigns yesterday at the end of the night. And I got to tell you, okay, so I don't know the lady from Adam other than she was the DHS, you know, she was the secretary appointed by, you know, President Trump. She came on the air, I want to say it was Thursday or Friday night, and for the first time, because I really didn't pay too much attention to her, I watched her once in a while. I watched some of the hearings that she was getting grilled on. Obviously, you guys know how it works, both of you. It's like she's getting treated with kid gloves by the Republicans. She's getting assaulted by the Democrats. You know, it's partisan. That's the way it's going to be. And I watched her, and I said to myself, man, this lady doesn't seem too bad. As I was listening to her, she was pretty lucid in her comments. It was weird because I was saying to myself, like, you know, it seemed like she's taking a softer edge. This was on Friday, I believe. So Friday, I was watching this. And lo and behold, she resigns on the Sunday. Now I know why. Now I know why. I knowing what I know now about watching the Friday, if you watched her on Friday, you would see like, whoa, where's that coming from? You know, you have differences, and I think we talked about this, you know, before Darren had joined us, you know, a few weeks, if not a month or two ago. You know, Jeff, you were with me, and you know, we pointed out like, so after Kelly left and Mattis left, we don't know to what degree, you know, his subordinates are disagreeing with him, the president. We don't know, and like and by the way, I am on the record as saying I'm thankful that the president has not said anything more about General Mattis and General Kelly, because I have some respect, and he does, and he hasn't said anything, so I'm happy about that, and I'll give him credit for that. Won't talk about the McCain thing because I ain't happy about that one, but I'll give it where it's due. Okay, so this gal has been there, and they left, and so I think she was left over from Kelly, I believe, in his previous capacity. So I didn't know too much about her, but on the Friday, she was answering questions. She didn't step on the president's policy. She was clearly for, because that's her job. You guys know how that works. You get appointed, your job is to enact the vision of your leader. And so she was giving all that out, but then come Friday, and now that we're hearing all the chatter, it seems like maybe she didn't agree with, I guess he's going to want to go more aggressive on the border policy, and maybe she didn't agree with it, and so she resigns. And I think she's going to be gone by tomorrow, like that. like with the whip of the skin. So that one kind of threw me for a loop. But I'm going to illustrate that point again. On the Friday, I believe, when I watched her on an interview, being interviewed, for the first time, I actually felt bad for her. I felt sorry for her.
Why?
Not sorry not sorry in a way that, like, for what she has or has not done, but sorry from a leadership perspective. Because I could tell something was going on. She was being compromised, and she was probably second. And I'm telling you this, from a leadership perspective, I know how that goes when you're given an order or you're given a directive and you may not agree with it, and you have to make a decision to whether you stay or you go. Because that's what adults do. As kids, you can't do that. And in the Army, by the way, you can't do that. You're gonna do the damn job whether you like it or not, or you're gonna get court-martialed. So that was the only mercy I had that night. I'm like, oh wow, something's not right there. And then lo and behold, so she resigns on the Sunday. So what do you guys think? What's the deal? Because I mean now okay, so let's do that. I'm talking too long, but the border. Did he close the border?
No, and you lost.
Darren and I both said he wouldn't do it.
Get it out.
He hasn't done it on the date.
Get it. Don't stop. Get it.
Don't
stop.
Based on
Get it.
the way you insinuated, you would have. It should have been closed by now, but instead, President Trump.
That's it.
President Trump.
So you gonna hit me harder?
When President Trump was
You're not
watching
gonna hit me
Super
harder?
Next Nation, he saw Darren and I say not to do it, and President Trump listened to us.
So maybe in your scenario, one of the orders that the outgoing secretary got was to close the border. Maybe
that's what I think is the case.
Maybe there was some pushback.
Yep.
Because of that.
Yep.
I mean, what was the instructions? What was the order?
Well, I don't think we know entirely yet, because we will find out. You know, and you guys do know. We've all been alive long enough to know that eventually everything does come out. We always find out. I do think that was kind of the case.
She'll write a book.
Yeah, exactly, and she'll make a load of money. But I think that's the case because I mean, and I remember talking about this on air when the Syria thing and foreign policy in the Middle East, and then Mattis resigned. And basically his statement was, the president needs somebody that is going to have the ability to enact his vision, whether specifically, explicitly, at least in thought of who you are. Do I agree with this order? Can I enact this order even if I fundamentally disagree with it? That's what I think is the question.
But disagreement is we go left rather than going right, but we end up in the same point. I think that some of the decisions we've got going on now with our executive branch is not a matter of ending up in the same point. He's digressing us into areas that people know that there's going to be immense consequences that goes along with some of these decisions.
Well, I think there's also another issue here where the U.S. federal government's deep state, the intelligence apparatus, is not willing to admit some really, really tough realities and truths that are coming up. The American empire, so to speak, the lone superpower concept is coming to an end. And a lot of those boys in the military and in the CIA, they can't bring themselves to admit the fact that we are entering we're no longer going to be the big king of the hill, so to speak. We don't have the capability to finance 200 and something bases all over the world. We don't have the ability to police the world anymore. We got our tails handed to us in Afghanistan and Iraq, and thus we should not be policing anywhere else. And a lot of those guys are sort of like holding on to something from.
I think I'm one of them.
Yeah, well,
let me ask you a question.
We can't afford it. We're 20-something trillion in debt.
Let me ask you a question.
Those days are coming over.
And this is legit. So am I a deep state guy? I don't know.
You're a military veteran,
so I'm a deep state guy.
And your natural inclination is probably going to be towards, darn it, we can't give up our military prowess.
But when you say deep state,
that part for sure. That part for sure.
But the deep state, I just think that just mystifies it something. That's nothing more than
it's a name.
Having dealings under the table.
It's a name.
Dealing behind
I'm a deep
closed
state guy.
doors.
It gets into the intelligence apparatus and how they have a mind of their own. They tried this with President Obama too, by the way. There was a number of policies that Obama wanted to do that they went and they basically told him, if you do this, we're going to come get back at you this way. And that's been like that. JFK,
being
JFK
the deep,
had a deep state
being the
issue.
deep state guy, I'll push back for sure, because I'm going to say it, and you can quote me. There are presidents who don't know what the hell they're doing on foreign policy.
Well, there's
that
a
is
reason,
a fact.
There's a reason
Do we
why
need-
our
Quote that.
presidents
Do
are.
we
Quote
need a
that.
bigger example than what
Quote
we're
that.
currently going through?
There's
Well, I'm further, and I think he knows this. I'm further. I'm going to go back. I'm going to go back many presidents. We are not electing people that have that kind of foreign policy chops, that understand the mechanism. And I'll push back on what you said a little bit earlier too. I'm going to push back all over the place right now. But watch this. So I believe that if the military and the deep state that I keep saying space, Deep Space Nine, the deep state that, and by the way, I mean, some of these groups are really good at naming stuff. That sounds like insidious or evil. I can tell you right now, I ain't evil, but I guess I'm deep state. So let me finish this thought. So I can tell you right now that if done properly, we don't have to be in debt because of the military. That's inefficiency. And I'm going to tell you, it's not just the military that's so damn inefficient, because I could point to things specifically that we could change and adjust where we wouldn't be spending half as much money and still getting the same product.
The problem, though, is that there's, like you said, yes, there's a lot of areas where we're overspending and whatnot, but the problem is nobody wants to cut those areas. We're going to be talking about immigration. We spend anywhere from $100 billion to $200 billion on illegal immigrant services. We spend, when it comes to our criminal justice system, we vastly overspend. We spend $50,000, I believe, per inmate.
No, I'll agree.
Whereas,
We waste.
We could be spending a lot less than that and getting better results with human beings
that's no
putting
question.
them in jails.
But see, my thing is that's an inefficiency thing.
It's a NIMBY thing, not in my backyard. Right,
but I'm going to say again, that's an inefficiency
you know what the
thing.
Republicans and Democrats do? They end up compromising in the worst of ways. What they do is they say, all right, rather than cutting your program or you cutting mine, how about we just both fund both of our programs and then make the American taxpayer go into further debt? And so that's why we see ourselves in a massive debt today, and have since I think we had 3 years, I think, of balanced budgets under Clinton. And other than that, going back to I think Nixon, actually, we haven't had a balanced budget. So that's the problem, that nobody wants to cut their programs.
Let me get my one-liner back just for the audience. We haven't had a president that really knows foreign policy in a long, long time.
Who was our last president that was not connected to
deep state?
To deep state.
I'd say JFK or Dwight Eisenhower. Dwight Eisenhower gave the infamous military-industrial complex speech. And then also JFK gave the infamous secret society speech, and then of course he was shot.
And incidentally, so hold on, incidentally, what did those two have in common?
They both served in World War II.
They both served. They both served.
I would even add in.
Let me say that for hold on a second. I want to say that for my audience. This deep state concept that I guess I'm a part of, vets don't see it that way. And I've got a constituency for me that's veteran. We don't see ourselves as some evil monolithic empire.
Deep state implies the bureaucracies, though. There's a military.
Okay, well, I'm out of it. Here's the thing.
But even
it's when you're in. It's when you're in, and then you're out.
But when you're
see it
serving
differently.
in the military, that's not really wanting to perpetuate an expensive bureaucry. When deep state,
because when you're in, you don't have a choice.
Implies the professionals at the Pentagon that are making $250K a year, pushing pencils and
so then I wouldn't be
making strategies,
because I ain't making 250.
Yeah, they're overpaid. They're making strategies. A lot of them have never served in combat, yet they want to send our kids.
Okay, that's different too. That's different.
Really what that implies. So
that's okay. Well, I'm glad you clarified that, because I'm still like, when somebody says something like that, when they say, "Oh, deep state," I'm like, what the hell is that? You know, and I'm trying to internalize, because that's different for me, because I am a military guy,
right?
And I do believe in, I will say it, and I've said it on air a bunch of times, I do believe the necessity for us being the premier superpower. I do believe that.
And look at JFK and Eisenhower. Okay, Eisenhower was elected during
the Korean War. They were two vets.
Yes, and he was elected on the platform of making peace in Korea. and he succeeded in that. He got an armistice.
Incidents, which is what,
right.
which is what
JFK
vets want.
Right. JFK wanted to ensure that we didn't send any more troops to Vietnam. I believe there was 5,000 troops at the time he was elected. He made it clear that we are pulling out because he being a he had fought in the Pacific during World War II.
We do not like loss of life.
Right.
I don't think people understand that.
This was just a trap to suck more and more and more American blood and treasure into Southeast Asia.
I'll break there. We'll get back to Darren.
And then
we got to get back to Darren. But here's the thing. So on that, and I'm like doing the military thing, but something to crystallize here for the audience again. I'm a vet, and I want people to understand. There's this assumption, because I've dealt with this, where people just think I'm bloody and military and I want war, right? We understand loss of life better than most.
That's why,
and we are really
a lot of military men make great presidents.
Yes, they do. Okay, we haven't, and I'm going to get back to Darren now. But my point is that those two in particular, and Truman, by the way, because you kind of know,
Sure.
I've said on air, you guys kind of know where I'm at, like on a political continuum. I'm a Truman, Eisenhower, Kennedy guy. Those are my guys. That's what I believe. You know, funnily. Now, maybe I'm way off base and maybe I'm way too far out. But the last time, and by the way, all three of them served.
Yeah.
But they were definitely
good under those three.
They were not the guys that were out there trying to start trouble, trying to pick fights, trying to do things right. However, they were really, really good about defending this country. And I mean, if you want to talk about defensive country and standing up to Russians, you couldn't do anything more than a Cuban Missile Crisis. So I want to make sure I'm clear on that. So I don't know if I am deep state or not, and I'm going to put it on there. I don't give a damn if you call me deep state or not. I know what I am. I'm my country first. I'm a vet, and I don't believe in loss of life, and I don't believe in inefficiency, and I don't believe in waste.
Sounds more like you're an America first or a true, genuine America first.
Which you know I am. But with the filter of those crossed rifles, I forgot my thing today. Jesus. Okay. With those crossed rifles. Go ahead. Sorry, dude.
But I think you guys hit on a point that, for me, the deep state is not the military.
Right.
The deep state is the military industrial complex.
Yes.
It's the people making money.
It's the people making money.
That's the difference.
That's the deep state.
That's
I think that the three guys that you ascribe to, Truman, Eisenhower, and Kennedy,
those are my dogs,
understand where we are. But the rest of our presidents they don't have an understanding of that.
I'm being pretty critical. I'm being pretty critical.
They are, for lack of a I don't know, a great term, they're being pawns in this place.
Yes.
They're going to be in office for 4 years.
I'm going to tell you why, because they can't know. It's almost like I try to be nice, but they can't know.
Do we want to have the United States international and foreign policy built on a 4 or 8 year cycle?
Right.
Well, we had that discussion, didn't we?
The individual president is
no, it's too hard to do it in a 4 or 8 year cycle, because the mechanics of peace in the West and the world isn't a binary 1-term, 2-term thing and then you move on. Because every time a new president comes in and a new party comes in, what happens? Hard left, hard right. And the result is what we have now.
Exactly.
Kind of a mess.
That's why we're where we are now, and that's why
let's be even-handed
we're
about
going to have to pull back from the world, because we simply
I'll disagree with you on that. We can't do that. We can't do that.
We can't maintain the presence in the world that we have right now.
We can't afford it, though, Supermax. We've got
no.
22 trillion in debt. These are
you're making a binary.
Going to our grandchildren and
you're making it a binary
debt now.
choice. You're making the assumption that if we are now, I'm not saying go get into every mess on the planet.
I didn't say isolationism. Okay, we have to pull back some of it.
So let's make sure we're clear on that.
We have to pull back some of it.
Let's pull back on waste and where we don't need to be.
So how do you
define
to pull back entirely? But how do you define waste?
Being in places that are no longer productive, being in places that no longer serve the, well, I will say, like the Afghanistan thing. I think we've been there too damn long. I know what the rationale is behind it, but we've been there 17, 18 years.
So why are we in that region of the world?
from leftover.
But why? Oil.
Well, I know.
Let's be honest.
Yes.
It's about about our interest. It's about our oil interest in that particular region.
In Afghanistan, there's diamonds, and there's also other minerals that make our cell phones.
It's about our interest. It's not necessarily about us being the lawmen or the protectors, or us worried about our concerns. It's about
and
our
also,
interests.
by the way, the opium crops, because that's what makes most of these painkillers that a lot of Americans are addicted to now.
I'm gonna have to run us back. So we're never gonna get we started with the border, and we're talking. It's foreign policy. Okay, let's get foreign policy because I asked about the deep state. That's my fault.
Correct.
That's my fault.
But,
so let me get this before we move into this a little deeper. Do we maybe have consensus on like the Nielsen thing? I'm not gonna lie. I felt bad for her. Again, not for what you think, but when I'm sitting there, because I understand compromising principle. I understand compromising your principle to do the right thing or wrong thing. And I thought, I'm like, man, I actually feel bad for a little bit. Because I did before.
I don't understand. I don't ascribe to that concept.
Okay, maybe you don't. But trust me, I knew entirely. And then on the Sunday, I'm like, wow, I knew exactly what was going on.
You do it.
Okay, so
I looked up with Nielsen.
But don't give me stats yet. Don't give me stats yet. So can we get consensus on? So we think she resigned because she was asked to close the border.
I think she's getting a raw deal myself because possibly from
answer
President
that question,
Trump.
both of you. So
I think that's
why did she resign?
I don't think there's one reason that she resigned. I think that may be part of it.
Mounting,
but I think when you have to answer for the way that they've been handling those folks.
And she was the face of it. Yeah, she was the face of it. She was catching it all.
Her face.
I don't even think they were all her policies, but she's taking it.
Think about it. Her being the face of it, if there are any atrocities that goes on down there,
she's responsible.
She's responsible for it. It's not going to go back to the president.
Exactly.
It's not going to go back to the military. It's not going to go back to ICE because ICE is an organization. If they got to pin it on a person,
easy face.
Yeah,
easy face to do it. What would you say is the rationale?
She's being unfairly whipped by Trump's political opponents rather than them going after Trump. They go after her. What I was going to allude to earlier was I watched some of the hearings with President Obama and President Bush's picks for Homeland Security. They had to do the exact same thing. They had to separate families because of the Ninth Circuit court ruling. And I didn't see one Republican lambasting and personalizing it to Obama's guys, and I didn't see one Democrat do it to Bush's guys.
That's the part.
She's being hit.
But you got to answer the question.
So that's that. In my view, she's probably like, look, you know what? You can't have to do a Nixon phrase. You ain't got old Nixon to kick around anymore. In her case, old Nielsen.
So kind of the same thing.
Kicked around.
Would you agree?
I need to add in though. One of Obama's biggest critics with his foreign policy and how he handled immigrants was inside the party.
Oh, I know that. I
agree with you that it wasn't a crossing over a party's attack, but he was attacked and demonized and held accountable in the court of public opinion.
And it was unfair too. Obama was simply following the law. He was doing his job as president. You know,
so there are other times where and don't get me wrong,
I'm defending
I'll vote
Obama
200 times
here,
for Obama in the next 2 elections. Get that? I'll vote for him 200 times in the next 2 elections. But the way that he handled that immigration policy, there was another way to do that. There are other times where he has. So the marijuana, the whole thing with the marijuana, when the states started legalizing marijuana,
right?
He didn't change the federal laws, but he told his Department of Justice, we are not going to pursue marijuana busts in those particular states.
He did something similar, though, with immigration. He decided to focus on deporting career criminals. What he did was he went into the county jails and to the state prisons, and he had guys that were 5-year, 3-year.
I know a guy that got yanked.
Not everybody that got deported in that system was a
that was
career
the majority
criminal.
of his policy, though.
That's also correct because I know some people that got yanked.
I mean, there's always going to be
because of here where we are.
I have
that
parents
happens.
that were here today.
In education,
gone tomorrow.
I understand all that.
In the middle of the night,
there's going to be people like that, but you know what?
And the kids are left behind.
He did
back to this. Back to this. I need a buzzer. Okay, so back to this. So do we agree?
She gives from
on the current.
She gets whatever comes to her.
Okay, on the current. So, but whether she deserves it or not is relevant. My point is so I think because I'm drawing the larger picture here because he's got a pattern now where people, for whatever reason, they're going to have to make decisions of whether they want to continue with what his policies. I'm saying. So do you think? So the question again: do you think she resigned because he told her to close the border?
I think that was one of the issues. I don't think that was the issue.
Straw.
But I think that might have been the straw that broke the camel's back.
Yeah,
but
what say you? She did tell him that she doesn't. She isn't sure if that's constitutional.
Correct.
So
one sidebar that I got on this situation.
You're trying to score points after you lost last week, huh?
Oh no! I'm going to finish that up in a second. I'm going to finish that up. I don't need to score points. What the hell with that? I don't do points, man. I'm a takedown artist. Okay, so here's what I do know. So 3 things that was pointed out to me, and I asked an attorney. So the things that are legal for the president to do, legal, that he can do legally, family separations. It is legal for him to implement that policy.
It actually was ordered because
it's policy.
They didn't want
He can
children
do that.
going to sitting in the same jail
as much
cells
as we
their
don't like
parents.
it, and as much as I don't like seeing kids in a cage and kids separated from the family, that's actually legal. Okay,
But
so
it's
family
unethical. It's not required.
Not disagreeing.
It's not required.
Not disagreeing.
And it's unethical.
Not disagreeing. Not arguing. But
Okay.
from a legality standpoint alone, family separation is legal. Legal. He can close the border. Any president can do that. What's not legal, this is illegal, is he cannot deny asylum.
Correct.
Because that is part of our framework. So that's the conundrum.
Nor
that's
can
the
he
conundrum.
target a particular ethnic population,
Well,
which he's done.
He's done it.
He can close the border. He can deal with immigrants, but he cannot demonize Muslims, and he cannot demonize the people that come.
Well, it's funny
from
that you mentioned.
Central
So it's
America.
funny that you say that because so yeah, with the
That's
Muslim
illegal.
thing, he did the Muslim ban. People kind of forget that already, right? And that was like kind of done in the courts. I mean, and he can't.
Yeah, that's what. Well, with the Muslim ban, what happened was the courts told him that you have to do this by nation, not by religious group. So he had to switch it to Iran and a few other enemy countries.
So let's make it
alleged
applicable here.
enemy.
Let's make it
But
applicable here.
ironically, Saudi Arabia, who
Right.
we've
I
talked
don't want to
about,
talk about it right now. That's
them
another
boys
show.
were behind
That's another show.
9/11,
I'm
and
still
Saudis
still
can
not
come
about
here.
that. Still not about
They
that.
can come here
Okay,
left
so
and
let's
right.
make that point applicable to.
It's oil money, baby.
Let's
He's
make
right. See, he's right though. You know.
It's about the Benjamins.
Yeah,
You'll get me in
yeah.
trouble now.
If
No,
you
they're
got-
bigger than
if you
Benjamins.
got
Okay.
oil,
All right,
I'm
so-
on them dollar bills.
All
It
right,
ain't
all right,
Benjamins,
gentlemen. All right,
though.
gentlemen. So let's bring this back. So on that particular case, if we make that applicable to right now. Okay, so he tried, the Muslim thing, the Muslim ban. It didn't work because he could not relegate it to religion. So I had a young dude ask me. He's Mexican, and even though he's not affected by it directly, because right now it's it's a lot of, it's not just Mexican. Obviously, it's a lot of the Central American countries, Guatemala, etc. El Salvador. Mara Salvatrucha. That's MS-13, where they come from. The bad hombres, right? So that's going on, and how can he make that applicable to an entire group of people? Is it nationality that he argues? Because it's not religion, obviously, but it's ethnic in the sense that they're Hispanic or of Latin American descent.
Well, okay. When I actually studied.
How does he get
previous,
away with it and not? Well, I won't even say political, but how does he get away with it illegally?
Well, I studied
How can he do
previous
it
ones,
legally?
and when Italians and others came here, they would hit Ellis Island, and anybody who was suspected to be in the mafia was sent back. There's also health checks. Anybody with diseases could not come to the USA. They had to go right back home.
Right.
Also, there were moratoriums after a wave of immigration. So I'm of the view now, after looking at what made our immigration the best one in the world, of that we need to do exactly that. We don't let the gang member types in. We don't let criminals in. Those with diseases that are going to cost us a
Yeah, here's the
fortune.
thing. I don't think any
we don't
American's
let
going to
them in.
disagree with that.
And
I don't
then
think
we-
anybody,
so-
you don't let any gang members in. I don't
Right.
think anybody's going to disagree with that, but it's
yeah.
not that anymore.
Well, Nancy Pelosi has actually said that she believes that MS-13ers have angelic souls on the inside. I don't know why she would say something that lame.
she
I
clearly
will-
hasn't
you
been in
know,
the same room with Homeboy.
yeah,
Well,
she,
we have
she
a
lives in an
huge-
elitist
We
bubble.
have a
so she,
growing population of El Salvadorians here in this valley.
It's
Sure.
growing.
And I don't have a problem with
Okay.
with folks in general, but
And
how-
whether,
but how
you
do
know
you-
it or not, some of them are probably
Yeah.
MS.
How do you know that they're not affiliated with
well,
that
the
gang?
vast majority of MSers, thank goodness, they tattoo themselves. If
All over the damn
If
joint.
they've got tattoos on them from MS, bye, see ya.
But, okay, so
Because they
come-
originated in prison, and you know how prison gangs are. No matter what color they are, they lots of them to do it. You know?
MS-13 didn't.
Well,
That's,
sorry, MS-13 originated in L.A. Then they got deported back home and spread it there.
All right, so we're
but if they're-
digressing a little bit. Let's
if
go
they're
back to that
tatted up,
point.
that's probably the
All right,
best giveaway.
Let's go back
right
to
there.
that point. How can President Trump make it something? I'm not saying political, because I do believe he's going to pay a political price. Whether he wins or loses, there is a political price.
Well,
to be
you
paid.
know, his approval rating with Latinos is now above 50% for the first time, and that's real clear politics, which isn't a right-wing poll. And
We'll
George
see.
W.
We'll see
Bush
what it
hit-
ends up being.
But George W. Bush hit 45% in his peak, and that's how he won re-election in 04.
Whose poll?
And
Whose poll are you getting those numbers from?
real clear politics, which is a left-leaning poll, and then even with CNN's poll, they had him at 45%. It's been inching up.
Overall approval rate for Trump?
With Latinos only. It's been going up and up and up, drip by drip.
Let me help you out
which
there.
I was blown away
Let
by
me help
when
you.
I saw that.
I might be a little bit expert on some of that. Okay, because I'm pretty even-handed.
It might be because of the job market. I don't know.
No, there's something to be said, and I think I've had this discussion with either one of you, both of you. Monolithically, as a group, we are a hell of a lot more forgiving and able to conform with situation in leadership. Meaning we have a higher bar to really piss us off and aggravate us because most, and definitely the people I know, and definitely people I've grown up with, we're way more tolerant of things and we accept things because and I'm going to say, and this is an ugly thing for some of you guys out there that are Mexican or Hispanic, we don't believe we can change things, so we have to go with what's there. That's a fact. It doesn't mean the numbering. And by the way, it's like it's a fact. It's a fact. It is who we are. I'm not happy with it all the time because it also means that we don't get play or we don't get heard and we don't get at least a fair due.
I'm curious, how then, in your words, how do you then justify that half of the Hispanics that are in this particular poll are in favor of
I don't think it's adequate.
Trump?
I don't think it's adequate/accurate. I don't think so. And especially when, like, what's going to happen is over time, because I'm hearing more and more of this from people that I talk to, that I deal with. And I'm a good litmus, by the way. I am a good litmus because both of you guys know I'm very, very tolerant and I'm very, very understanding and I'm really loath to go off a ledge unless it's something serious. And I have gone on air and I've said that I don't like the characterization because every time I see something or that's coming out.
I just did one, even PBS, New York Times even. These are polls across the board. It's a whole
Let me
page
help you
of
out.
them.
The hell with the poll. I'm here.
And what are they saying? Is that 50% approval rate?
Yeah, he's just topped 50%.
Okay, so
is it just basically approve or disapprove, or is there?
It's also about the wording and how you ask the question.
It's but yeah, these are left wing and right wing polls both.
Because the information the polls that I've been exposed to.
I want to see what the main reason is that they're giving, because that'd be more telling. Because
it has the ones that I've been kind of versed in has 5 quadrants. It has approve of very much, or very much approve of,
right,
and very much disapproval.
Yes.
It depends on how you structure the questions.
His disapproval, his high disapproval rate, universal, is at 21%. His high approval rate is at 29%.
Yeah, 50% approve of the job he's doing. 47% view him as favorable or very favorable.
And I would ask the question.
So then
watch this. I'll go even better.
And then,
is that
51% believe the economy is improving? That probably
plays
into it.
Here's the meat. Is it Hispanic? Is it Latino? Is it Mexican American?
I'm looking.
You won't be able to specify. I'm going to guess it's probably the larger, because I'm going to tell you why. The people that live along the border states, it ain't going to be the same as people that live in Florida or New York that are Hispanic or Latino. That's different. We did that. We did that on air. You know, there's distinction. You can't view monolithically as just one or the other. And every time I see something about murderers, rapists, and thieves, and I'm hard to move. I don't like it. I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting tired of it. I don't want to see that anymore. Because every time they show it, it's some dude that looks like me. Kind of looks like me. He's a little dark, maybe a little shorter, a little darker. It's always those people. And I'm tired of seeing it. So I don't think that helps him. And I know that there are, at least in our area, in our region where I'm at, we're getting kind of tired of it. I think he's going to pay somewhat of a political price. And I don't give a damn what those polls say.
That's crazy to me.
I'm going to tell you what. So is it Hispanic? I'm sorry. Is it Hispanic? Is it Latino? Because that's not an accurate picture. And you know as well as I, all we have to do is word things properly, and you can get the desired result out of it. I'm telling you that I don't think that's accurate.
Yeah, I don't see why Democrat-leaning polls would do him any favors, though.
again, not answering the question. It's
But
like,
like-
is
but
it
like I
Hispanic?
said,
Is it
it's-
Latino? Is it the larger macro? Because if it is, it's not an accurate gauge of the border states.
I'm looking at the New York Times
Yeah.
poll right now, seeing how they asked the question.
Oh, there you go. New York City. New York City.
Yeah, but New York Times, though,
Listen,
is
New York
they hate
City.
him.
New
They
York
don't
City.
like
I don't
Trump
give
at
a damn
all.
if they don't like him or not. Inaccurate is inaccurate. You're going to tell me somebody in New York knows better than me over here? I don't think so. And I'll argue that with their editor, whoever the hell he is. Maybe he'll come on The Nation. We'll argue a little bit.
Carlos Slim.
Okay, so you get my point, though, is that I don't think there will be a political price. I don't know to what degree it'll hurt him, but there will be a price because you can't just continuously say that the southern border is the problem when notice how the metric has changed on dialogue from terrorists. Why? Because the percentage of terrorists coming through borders is greater on the northern border than it is on the southern border.
No, the greater number of terrorists is internal. Our greatest activity.
Well, I'm talking about I'm talking about what he's doing in terms of borders.
I got you, but
Yeah.
but
If you're going to close
talk
borders,
about-
if you're going to close borders, you close the northern border too.
I got you, but I'm saying that the organizations and groups that are perpetuating the terrorist activities now
There
in this
are some
country
in-house, yeah.
are more in-house than they are external.
Yeah, they're definitely in-house.
You know, we got the three,
but
the,
I'm
the
just
three
saying,
black
like,
churches right now
yeah.
that they got an investigation going on.
Agreed.
In
agreed.
Louisiana, they just
But I'm
got
just saying,
burned
like,
down over the
okay,
last
stick
2 or 3
to the
weeks.
border thing. To the border thing. If the rationale is you're going to close that border because of the bad, then you're going to close all the damn borders because there are people coming through ports, and the northern border has a greater percentage of people on the terror watch list coming through it than the southern border.
Because they're going to be relaxed. I mean, criminals are not dumb.
I'm going to tell you
Not
right
all
now.
criminals
You know
are
where I'd
dumb.
go? I'd go through Canada. If I'm a damn terrorist,
Not all criminals are dumb.
if I'm a terrorist, I'm in Canada because it's easier to get in. But nobody's closing the northern border. I actually have some on my nation that have said they want the border shut. I'm not even disagreeing with them entirely. I don't think it's the answer, but I do agree with them. Like, if you're going to close one, you close them all.
You come through the northern border and you
You
come
do them
across
all.
a waterway. You
Because
don't go
if
through the
listen,
port of entry,
if you
go through the
don't
waterway.
close them all, then you leave yourself open to the attack that, oh, well, you're just going to close for that specific group. That's a problem. That's a problem because it's one group that is being closed. And again, the percentage of people on the terror watch list is greater coming through the northern border than it is the southern.